Okay, this is the beginning of my demo series about Lab 9228, Multi-Area OSPF v2. This is actually the end, what I'm showing you now is the end state of the lab as I did it, when I did it when I was taking this class. So I wanted to show you what it looks like at the end. I've got my show IP route output on router 1. I've got some inter-area routes. I've got my show IP protocol output on router 2, area 0 and area 3. And I've got my show IP OSPF output on router 3, all of it in area 3. What's going on here essentially is if you look at the topology, um, and this is it right here, we're going to have uh, router 1 in area 1, and it is also our ASPR. It's an area border router and an autonomous system border router because it's got a route off the OSPF routing domain. Router 1 and router 2 share the backbone link. Essentially, the backbone link, instead of being router 1 and router 2, is this serial line between router 1 and router 2. And then router 2 is in both the backbone area and router 3 and area 3. Area 3 is an internal router because all of its interfaces are in, sorry, router 3 is an internal router because all of its interfaces are in area 3. Router 2 is a backbone router and an area border router. Router 1 is a backbone router, an area border router, and an autonomous system border router, ASBR, because it's got our loop back, which is simulating the link to the cloud. So this is what it's going to look like at the end. I'm going to show you how to get there. And as per usual, I have some default configs. So I'm going to show you those, drop those in, and move on to the area configuration. We're still going to be doing this in the router config mode with networking statements. When we get to v6, we'll of course have to do basic router config and then interface config. And we'll have to pay really close attention with v6 about which interfaces go in which area. We honestly have to do the same thing with v4. You have to think about, okay, which networks are in which area, what inverse masks am I going to use for them, etc., etc. So this is just introduction. I'll show you the blank one next, and we'll go on. Okay, so I've got my initial configs. I haven't dropped anything yet, obviously, because my link lights, so to speak, are all red still. That'll all happen in this part down here. I might actually need to alter, because I did this on different hardware. I may need to alter some of these addresses for just a second. But as you can see, I've got my line set up, my passwords, my banner, so on and so forth. So copy, go to your config. And if you're doing this, doing it like this, you really don't need to even worry about, bam, enter. So, and of course, copy run start at the beginning of every initial config. My command line, bring that down here, enter, paste, boom, boom, boom. Okay, grab router 3 and router 3 initial, copy. This is how much time you can save yourself. Rather than spending, granted, you actually, once you do this once, you really only need to copy it into each new lab assignment. So you spend 15 or however long you need to spend on this, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever. Do this once, copy it everywhere. And frankly, you can even do this with your your switch configurations. We really don't need switches all that much for the rest of this course, but you will be doing that sort of thing again in CCNA 4. Not necessarily, actually, I think there is some layer 2 security also in CCNA 4. But even if you're not really configuring them, you do have to do some basic work on them, and you'll save yourself some trouble, some time and some trouble this way. And command line, boom, boom, paste, boom, boom. Okay, so I have just completed most of part 1 in what, 5 minutes. Now I can worry about the stuff that really matters, which is to say I can work on my interface addressing. So I got my loopbacks. The big thing here is this clock rate. Now, I built this for a lab. Some of our, you know how at some of our labs, the serial lines are a little unstable, to be honest with you. When we did our HWIC lab in CCNA2, I advised you to dial it back to 64,000 just to make quite certain. It's better to have a slow, stable connection than a fast, unstable one. So I can dial this clock rate back up again to 128,000. Basically, that's 128 kilobits per second, which is to say a fast fractional, a fast ISDN line. A really good ISDN line, a PRI ISDN line, runs at more or less T1 speeds. So let me look at the instructions for just a second. So I need loop 0000000, and I'm going to do this exactly the way the lab is written. Yeah, so the DCE end is on 0. That's fine. On router 1, the DCE end is there. Now, the other thing I need to do here, because I've built this the way this topology looks and not the way it would have been set up in my lab, I also need a clock rate command on my serial 001. I've kind of skipped the descriptions, but I guess I could add those. Let's see, let's go ahead. So I'm going to punch these in and come right back. Okay, so what I've done is on the basis of my addressing, my topology and my addressing scheme, I've added some descriptions. Now I can go back into router 1, copy. Notice, my link to the cloud. I'm going to call that someone else's hard drive. Remember, the cloud is somebody else's computer, somebody else's hard drive. And okay, the loopbacks are up. Now, serial 000 hasn't come up yet. It will come up when I bring router 2 online. Copy. Now, and when you're doing this copy and paste stuff, unknown clock rate. Ah, that would be a problem. Rate. Only the DCE interface. Interesting. To the backbone. Okay. So, oh, that needs to be on 001. Not, okay. Okay. You see, 00. Okay, and I brought it up. I guess I didn't need that. Okay, that's fine. So let's go on to router 3. And actually, hold on. I want to make quite certain I've done this correctly. What you can do is turn on your port labels. Okay, so SC001 is my clocked interface. So SE001 does need that clock rate command. Oh, no, not that. Rate. Okay, no, so there. Copy. Wait, hold on. Okay, so that sets a clock rate. That doesn't set a clock rate. Okay, so I was wrong. I don't need a clock rate command at all. That's fine too. And boom. Okay, so in the space of a few minutes, I've brought all of my interfaces up. If I wanted to test this, I could ping. Now, the simplest way to do, honestly, this right now, to end, if I do show CDP neighbor or neighbor from router 2, okay, CDP run. I think I'm going to have to do this everywhere. The fun thing about some of these commands, okay, 001, I guess, okay. So the fun thing about some of these commands is that if you issue a command in slightly the wrong context, it will move you into the right context. If you've ever done the default IP default gateway command in VLAN interface config mode on a switch, and it took it by dropping into global config mode and then applying the command, that's what happened. So now let's go back here. So I want to do CDP run again. Okay, not that. There, okay. If I really want this, show CDP neighbor detail, I want to make sure I see the right interfaces in the right places. And of course, to go the next step, I can ping from router 2 to router 3 and router 1. That'll solve, that'll confirm all of my connectivity at the same time, because router 2 is the linchpin here. And okay. I see my problem. My interfaces are backwards. I need 12 and 1 reversed. Okay, so let me fix this. Yeah, that's what happened. I got them backwards. Easy fix though. Okay, so that's fixed. I had those interfaces reversed. I ripped them out, I put them back in again, I make sure the clock rate is in the right place, and we go from there. Now the only thing I have to figure out now is if I've got my descriptions backwards.